Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that the absolute richest people on Earth are all quietly buying the exact same thing. And no, it's not gold. They aren't hoarding Bitcoin, they aren't snapping up luxury real estate, and they're definitely not pouring everything into the latest AI startups. Instead, they are buying dirt. Acres and acres of farmland, just quietly, patiently, scooping it up without making a single headline. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most fascinating economic shifts happening quite literally right beneath our feet.
So why exactly are the smartest investors on the planet buying farmland? I mean, at first glance, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Dirt isn't exciting, it doesn't dominate financial news, and you definitely don't see viral videos hyping up soil prices. Yet, massive pension funds, private equity firms, and billionaires are buying enormous amounts of it. And history tells us something super fascinating. When the smartest financial minds move together in complete silence, they usually see a crisis coming. Or they understand a profound truth about the future that the rest of us have completely missed.
You know, we constantly associate modern wealth with things like artificial intelligence, crypto, skyscrapers, the shiny stuff. But the stark reality is actually grounded in corn, wheat, and soil. We kind of tend to forget that literally every civilization in human history has depended on agriculture above everything else. Like, no matter what happens to the economy, no matter who wins an election, no matter if crypto totally crashes to zero, people still have to eat. Food is the inescapable foundation of human civilization, period.
Which brings us to Section 1, the math of scarcity, and our shrinking foundation. Look, we walk into supermarkets, we see fully stocked shelves, and we just sort of assume food is unlimited, but that's a complete illusion. Every single meal begins on a farm, and the foundation of those farms is shrinking rapidly. Here's a pretty terrifying statistic for you. The Earth is not creating any more farmland. In fact, scientists estimate that millions of acres, millions of productive farmland just disappear every single year. Cities expand, roads get paved, and massive housing developments are built right over land that used to produce our food. At the exact same time, healthy soil is being lost to erosion, pollution, and desertification. We are literally losing the ground we stand on.
It basically boils down to a very simple, totally unavoidable economic equation. On one hand, we have a global population that just keeps growing rapidly. Every single year, millions of extra people need to be fed. But on the other hand, at the exact same time, we have a strictly limited and, like we just talked about, shrinking supply of arable land. Basic economics tells us exactly what happens when exponentially growing demand slams into a strictly limited supply, right? Prices rise. This simple math is exactly why farmland has quietly become one of the world's absolute best-performing assets. For years, this was happening totally under the radar. But then, news broke that tech billionaire Bill Gates had quietly become one of the largest private owners of farmland in the entire United States. That forced people to stop and pay attention. You see, really successful investors, they think decades ahead, not just months or years. Farmland generates steady income, it appreciates over time, and it produces something humanity literally cannot live without. It offers the ultimate kind of stability.
Moving on to Section 2, Water and Climate Threats, and Facing an Unpredictable Future. The environmental variables compounding right now are making reliable food-producing land incredibly rare. Let's just look at the harsh realities threatening agriculture today. It's not just cities swallowing up fields. We are facing severe soil erosion, creeping desertification, depleted underground aquifers that nature just can't refill fast enough, and wildly unpredictable climate patterns. Every single one of these compounding threats takes productive land and basically renders it useless, shrinking that supply side of our economic equation even further.
Think about this for a second. For over a century, oil was the world's most valuable resource. I mean, countries literally went to war over it. But without oil, life just becomes highly inconvenient. Without water, life becomes completely impossible. Fresh water is rapidly becoming the most valuable hidden asset of this century.
Let me ask you a quick question. Imagine two identical farms. They have the exact same crops, same size, same equipment. But one has access to a reliable flowing river and the other depends entirely on unpredictable rainfall. Which farm would you choose? The answer is a no-brainer, right? Long-term investors aren't just buying dirt, they are buying access to water. Because farmland without water isn't an asset anymore, it's a massive liability.
For thousands of years, the predictable, reliable cycle of spring, summer, autumn, and winter is what actually built human civilization. But today, that predictability is disappearing. Heat waves, unexpected megafloods, and incredibly destructive storms mean that just a single unexpected weather event can wipe out an entire year's harvest in a flash.
actually consistently producing food is getting harder, which makes the land that can still do it incredibly valuable.
That leads us to Section 3, the new global competition, and food as national security.
So this isn't just about individual billionaires diversifying their portfolios anymore. We're talking about entire nations. Countries are quietly engaging in an economic war for survival right now. Governments are investing heavily in their own domestic agriculture, and some are even crossing borders to purchase productive farmland overseas. They're building massive emergency grain reserves, and crucially, they are preparing to restrict food exports to other countries during shortages. You see, food is no longer just a commodity to be traded. It is a critical strategic asset. Any country that relies entirely on imports for its food is realizing they are incredibly vulnerable.
Now, today's global supply chain is admittedly incredibly efficient, but efficiency is not the same thing as resilience. As we've all learned recently, our highly interconnected world means that a severe drought in one hemisphere, combined with a random shipping disruption, can instantly trigger panic and massive price surges on the complete opposite side of the planet. Seeing empty supermarket shelves is a really stark reminder of just how fragile this whole system actually is.
Let's look at Section 4, the technology revolution. Can innovation save us?
To be fair, agriculture is actually changing way faster than most people realize. Farming is rapidly becoming this highly advanced, data-driven industry. We've got artificial intelligence being deployed to predict hyperlocal weather patterns. There are drones and satellites monitoring crop health and soil conditions from up in the sky. Autonomous tractors are out there working day and night without stopping. And precision agriculture is allowing farmers to use significantly less water and fertilizer while somehow producing even more food. We even have massive vertical farms growing crops entirely indoors without a single drop of real soil.
But here is the ultimate limitation. While technology can absolutely drastically improve production, it cannot manufacture fertile soil overnight. You just cannot artificially create vast tracts of high-quality, water-rich land in a laboratory. That fundamental, unchangeable physical limitation is exactly why productive agricultural land continues to attract the world's most patient capital.
Which brings us to our final point, Section 5, the ultimate defensive asset, what humanity will always need.
I want you to take a moment and genuinely ask yourself this. If you were stranded on an island, which would you actually choose? A suitcase stuffed full of gold or a year's supply of food? Gold is only valuable because society collectively agrees it has value. Food is valuable because your life literally depends on it. When a true crisis hits, luxury becomes totally meaningless. Fiat currency just becomes paper. Only survival matters.
And that really leads us to the core thesis of this entire explainer. Scarcity creates value. As fertile land gets scarcer due to climate change and urban expansion, and as the global demand for food just keeps rising with population growth, the sheer ability to produce food is quietly becoming the ultimate strategic asset of our time.
If you look at a long-term investor's checklist, agriculture just checks every single box. It produces steady income, it appreciates over decades, the demand for the product literally never ever disappears, and it remains incredibly resilient during economic recessions. I mean, people don't just stop eating because the stock market takes a dip, right? Wall Street and private equity view this as the absolute perfect defensive asset against a chaotic future.
The greatest fortunes in human history were rarely built by chasing short-term trends or gambling on the next hot stock. They were built by understanding absolute future necessities long before the rest of the world woke up to them. These investors, they aren't preparing for next month's earnings report, they are preparing for the next generation. They fundamentally recognize that behind every single tech innovation is a human being who still needs to eat 3 times a day.
So, I'll leave you with this final, lingering thought to reflect on. As the world changes, as populations grow, and the climate shifts, will the simple ability to produce food become the most scarce and valuable resource of our future? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you see the ground beneath your feet in a completely new light.